Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network. And now, let's experience New Thought Philadelphia.
And I just got to start by saying this situation sucks. This situation, you know the situation I'm talking about. This situation sucks. And what I'm talking about is ice. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is because the title of the talk today is It Gets Better. So, for 2 weeks, Philadelphia has been under a mountain of ice. And it is just annoying. This sucks. You try and park the car, you try and go someplace, it's hard to move around. That's what you were thinking about, right? Yeah. No, that wasn't. Yeah. There's another ice that has been a problem as well, which has been on our minds. And there's the concern that authoritarianism is creeping up on us, that we're losing control of the democracy that was founded 250 years ago, that we are so much in favor of. And then simultaneously, there's the Olympics. And it's the Winter Olympics, which are the fun, frivolous Olympics, because be honest, how much time do you usually spend watching curling or figure skating or ice dancing other than every 4 years for the Winter Olympics? The Winter Olympics is always a time when the athletes of all nations get together and compete to see who is going to take home the gold medal. I don't know if you've seen any of the games. They started on Friday night in Italy. There have been some wonderful things that have happened at the Olympics already. And you say, how could even the joyous events and unfoldings at the Olympics have any influence or any impact whatsoever on this stuff that sucks? How could that possibly change anything? Well, I invite you to wind back in history a little bit. Back in the 1930s, when the Nazis were claiming that the Aryan master race was better than anybody and they could do everything better than anyone. And in 1936, the Summer Olympics were in Berlin. And there was an athlete who went to Berlin who was perhaps one of the best athletes in history. And he set a bunch of records, and he won a bunch of gold medals, and he really made the Germans, the Nazis, shut up because there's a black man from America. It's Jesse Owens. And it was dope slapping the Nazis who were saying, you have to look like this in order to be anything. It gets better. Now, it didn't immediately get better after 1936. There were some difficulties that ensued between now and then. But it gets better. And the important thing to remember is that it is possible, regardless of what the situation is, for it to get better. What situation came to mind when I said this situation sucks? Because we're each in a different place. We're each looking at life from a different perspective. And whatever it is that we perceive to suck could be different. Now, in a lot of cases, we agree. We agree on what sucks. But it gets better. It gets better. And the first question that comes to our rational minds, because we are very clever, very smart, intelligent, thoughtful people, is how? How is this going to get better? How could this possibly get better? And the answer is, I don't know. That is above my pay grade. I don't get to decide how it's going to get better. So also 2 weeks ago, ICE, the other ICE, the Immigrations and Custom Enforcement people, were murdering Americans in Minnesota. And it had been getting bad and worse, and this situation sucked. And we got to join together knowing that it gets better. How? Don't know. But there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of pushback to that, and almost immediately, 2 weeks ago, there was a leadership change, and they started de-escalating a little bit. 25% reduction in the forces that are on the ground there. And the thing that nobody's really thinking that much about is that the army had been mobilized to get ready to go there, and they were told to stand down. So we're not going to have federal U.S. troops in our cities. Now, if you had guessed that was going to happen 2 weeks ago, you've been asking, how? How could that possibly happen? Well, it gets better. It is possible for it to get better. And along the way, there's some splits and fissures that are showing up. Because the people who are trying to do this, our version of the people who are saying that the Aryans are the only race that's worth dealing with, we're saying things like, well, that protester shouldn't have been armed. He shouldn't have had a gun with him. And everybody, mostly on their side, said, wait a second. There's guns rights. You can't start talking about that. So these people who had been solidly in agreement, suddenly there's a little bit of a break there. And then the cartoon commander-in-chief made a post ridiculing the Obamas and calling them monkeys. And the only black senator on the Republican side pushed back. Another fissure. So what seemed like this solid wall now has some cracks in it. And as you have heard me talk over and over again, all you need is the smallest crack, and then something can get in. The cracks are where the light gets through. It gets better. And I don't know exactly how it gets better, because as I mentioned, how is above my pay grade. I've occasionally dealt with people who are having suicidal thoughts. And it's terrible to be in a situation where you just can't imagine how it could possibly get any better. And unfortunately, as we know in our intellectual mind, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. The crucial thing to remember is that it's a temporary problem and it gets better. How? I don't know. I don't know how. That is above my pay grade. That is something that's going on beyond what I can possibly imagine. And I know so many people who have been in that place of despair, who've been resilient and come back and are leading joyous, happy, loving lives, being surrounded by people who care for them and who would be devastated if they weren't there. It gets better. So actually, I do know how it gets better. I don't know the specifics of what the steps are for me to take or for you to take. And certainly, if somebody comes along and tells you they've got the guaranteed answer of how things are going to get better, it's probably time to run. Because there are possibilities. And very, very, very rarely do we have a really clear answer. But when you're facing a situation and the situation sucks, or even if it's just unpleasant or undesirable or something that you'd like to have something different, the first step is prayer. And the prayer is not for those people to stop doing the things that they've been doing, or for that bad thing to go away, or for this inconvenience to suddenly be better for me. The prayer is for love and harmony. The prayer is for love and harmony. And the big objective for us is to let go of attachment, to let go of needing to know how right now. To have the prayer be for, I want to know what to do and I want to know now. And I want to do it, I want it to be successful, I want everything to be different now. Timing is not ours. The mechanism is not ours. The infinite is going to do that. The prayer is for love and harmony unfolding. And the other thing that we get to do is meditate. Prayer is where we're setting an intention and speaking our word into that creative law that creates everything. Meditation is when we're listening to that infinite intelligence that creates everything and allowing it to guide us. The meditation is, what is mine to do? What are my next perfect steps to take? And when the infinite, in meditation, that still small voice tells you this is what you got to do and you got to do it now. Your job is to resist. Your ego can do an incredibly good impression of that still small voice. And when you think that you know, this is what I have to do, say, that's a wonderful idea. And then meditate some more. Let it go. Because if it's your ego, it'll say, that didn't work. And it'll try something different. And it'll keep trying something different as you get into a train of thought thinking about this, and a train of thought thinking about that, and the other, and the other. It keeps sending different trains. If it's actually the infinite, if it's the still small voice within, it'll tell you the same thing again. If it's a calling, if it's your true calling about what it is that's yours to do, and you let it go to voicemail, you let the call go to voicemail, the infinite will call back. And again and again and again. And as we let go of our attachment to thinking that we knew what we were supposed to do, of how it's going to get better, as we let the train that's taking us in the direction that's not going to be helpful go by, we get off that train of thought, then our next perfect steps become revealed to us. And with that comes clarity and the knowing that goes from your head into your heart, into your gut. And you know, this is mine to do. And when those next perfect steps are revealed, take them. It is wonderful to know what you're supposed to do. It's even more important to do it. There are ways that we are participating in this creative enterprise, which is life, that require some participation on our part. That's not to say you need to pick up your tools and run out immediately to solve the problem. Start in consciousness. Start in prayer. Set the intention for the experience, not of what you want to have change, but the experience you want everybody to have when it's done. Peace and harmony is rarely something that happens with just one person at a time. It's the sort of thing that fits the whole group together. So set the intention for peace and harmony in whatever it is, the resolution of whatever that sucky situation is. Meditate for the guidance on your next perfect steps, and take those steps. This friend of mine says, let go of the how and open to the wow. Because the infinite creative power that creates everything is creating that next new experience. And it gets better. It might not get better immediately, might not get better quickly or obviously, and it gets better. We're currently in the middle of the beginning of the season for nonviolence. It's 64 days between January 30th and April 4th, the dates of the assassinations of Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And this is something that's actually started by the New Thought folks. It was probably 20, 30 years ago. The Association for Global New Thought got together with Arun Gandhi, who's Gandhi's, I think, grandson, and created the season for nonviolence. And it's 64 ways in 64 days to bring nonviolence into the world. And the two of them were huge in the nonviolent movement. Now, there's not a lot going on with the season for nonviolence this year. It's still going on. Not a whole lot of people are talking about it. And mostly, I think the reason is because Barbara Fields, who is the executive director for the Association for Global New Thought, passed away last year. So she's not at the helm, and it's reinventing itself. But that doesn't mean that the idea isn't a good one. That doesn't mean that peaceful protest is something that suddenly doesn't work anymore. There are opportunities for us to stand together with our voices and say, this sucketh, and here's what I'm going to do, and here's where I stand, and invite in a new experience. And somehow, some way that is either completely obvious or completely hidden, something that we can predict specifically or comes up on us as a surprise, somehow it gets better. Somehow it gets better. So that's the invitation for you, for each of us, to do that exercise of doing the prayer, letting go of attachment, letting go of thinking we know how it's going to happen, and pray for love and harmony. Invite that love and harmony into life. Meditate for the guidance on what are my next perfect steps. Listen for the still small voice. Take the steps. And as it says on the bottle of shampoo, lather, rinse, repeat. Don't do that once. Do that until it becomes a lifestyle. Because that's how it gets better. And you deserve it. And I deserve it. And we deserve it. And so it is.